I grinned. That is how I need to start this, because it is the thing that surprised everyone who knew me, including myself. I, Wade Calloway, a man who had not truly smiled in longer than I cared to admit, stood in the middle of my own ranch like a fool with my mouth curved up like a boy on Christmas morning. And all it took was one woman pointing her finger at me like I was something worth looking at. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how we got there. I had built a reputation in Harmon County, Texas, and I will not pretend it was a flattering one. Cold, closed off, unreachable. Those were the words people used when they talked about Wade Calloway. And they talked because that is what small Texas towns do. They said I had turned into stone after my father passed and left me the ranch at 24. They said the land had swallowed me whole. They said I never laughed, never dated, never let anyone close enough to matter. I was 31 years old, running 1,500 acres of prime Texas land, 240 head of cattle, and a ranch operation that had my grandfather's name on the gate in iron letters 3 feet tall. I had a foreman, Dale, who had been with us since before my father died. I had a kitchen I barely used, a porch I sat on alone most evenings, and a reputation that kept people from bothering me. That was the life I had chosen. It suited me fine, or so I thought. It was a Tuesday in late September when everything went sideways. The sky was doing that thing it does in early fall in Texas, that impossible gold that makes even dust look beautiful. And I was coming in from the eastern pasture on my truck, a mud on the tires, a long list of things I still needed to get done before dark. I turned onto the main drive toward the house and nearly hit her. She was standing right there in the middle of my private road, not at the gate, not near the entrance, right in the middle of the long gravel drive that cuts through my property, like she had just materialized out of the afternoon heat. I hit the brakes hard. Gravel popped. The truck shuddered. I sat there for a second with my hands tight on the wheel, and she just stared at my windshield with the biggest brown eyes I had ever seen, holding a canvas backpack against her chest like a shield. I got out. "You are on private property," I said. That was my opening line, not exactly charming. She blinked once. Then she looked down at the gravel beneath her worn sneakers, then back up at me. I know," she said. "I am looking for Dale Harmon. He is my uncle." I stared at her. Dale never mentioned a niece. "Dale does not mention much of anything," she said, and she was not wrong about that, so I did not argue. Her name was Lila Pruitt. She was 26 years old, and she had driven from East Texas in a truck that had, by her own account, given up the ghost somewhere around the county line and been left on the side of the highway. She had walked the last 3 miles in those thin canvas sneakers with that backpack and a bottle of water that was almost empty. She had dark brown hair pulled back in a loose braid, a light blue dress that had seen better days, and a composure that I found annoying, honestly, because she did not seem remotely embarrassed about any of it. And most people on my property without permission had the decency to look nervous. Lila Pruitt just looked like she was waiting for a bus. "I will get Dale," I said. "Thank you." She smiled, a small, polite thing, and shifted the backpack strap on her shoulder and waited right there in the middle of my drive like she owned it. I found Dale at the stables. He looked genuinely surprised and genuinely pleased when I told him who was at the gate, or rather, who was standing in the middle of my road. And he jogged out to meet her in a way I had never seen Dale jog for anything. I watched from the stable doorway as he pulled her into a hug and she laughed, and then I went back inside and tried to remember what I had been doing before the world interrupted me. I figured she would stay a day or two. Yeah, that was my first mistake. assuming I could predict anything about Lila Pruitt. If you're new here and you love a good country romance, subscribe to the channel right now. I promise we have got more where this came from, and I always leave a heart on the comments. Tell me below, have you ever been caught off guard by someone who walked into your life completely uninvited? Dale came to find me that evening while I was on the porch. He had his hat in his hands, which meant he wanted something. "She has nowhere to go right now," he said, getting right to it. Her situation in East Texas fell through. The job she was counting on did not work out. She has a few $100s and no plan. "That is not my problem, Dale." "No, sir. But I was hoping you might have something for her here. Light work. Kitchen help, maybe. Yet just until she gets back on her feet." I looked at him for a long moment. Dale was a hard man who did not ask for things. In 7 years of working this ranch together, I could count on one hand the number of times he had come to me hat in hand. I respected that about him. "2 weeks, I said. "Kitchen and house. She stays in the guest quarters off the back." "Yes, sir. Thank you." He put his hat back on and walked away before I could change my mind. That was my second mistake. Lila Pruitt in my kitchen was something I was not prepared for. I am not talking about the cooking, although the cooking was extraordinary, and I will get to that. I am talking about the noise. The woman hummed while she worked. Not loud, not performative, just this quiet, steady sound. Like she was so comfortable in her own skin that she did not even think about it. I would come in for coffee at 6 in the morning, and there she was, already at the stove, humming something I could not identify, hair still in a braid, the whole kitchen smelling like something I had not smelled since my mother was alive. It unsettled me. I was used to quiet mornings. "You are an early riser," I said on the second morning. "Always have been," she said, without turning from the stove. "Coffee is fresh. I made biscuits." I sat down at the kitchen island and drank the coffee and did not say anything else. The biscuits were the best I had eaten in years. I did not tell her that. She did not seem to need the compliment. She just moved around my kitchen like she had mapped it in her sleep, unlearning where everything was with a quiet efficiency that I noticed despite myself. The ranch hands noticed her too, not in a way that caused problems. Dale made sure of that with a single look, but in the way anyone notices when something warm appears in a cold place. She learned all their names within 3 days, which was more than I could say for myself with 2 of them having worked here over a year. "Your niece is something else," my foreman said on Thursday. "She is Dale's niece," I said. He gave me a look I did not appreciate. I went back to work. The days settled into a rhythm I was not entirely comfortable with, because it was a better rhythm than before, and I did not want to admit that. A proper meal at noon instead of whatever I could find standing at an open refrigerator. A clean kitchen at night. She left food covered on the stove and never once made me feel obligated to thank her, which somehow made me want to thank her more. She stayed out of my way. She did not ask questions. She did not try to make conversation when I clearly did not want any. But she hummed. She always hummed. On Friday of the first week, I came around the corner of the barn and found her sitting on the fence rail of the empty paddock, legs dangling, looking out at the eastern fields in the golden hour light. She had a notebook open on her knee, and she was writing something. She did not hear me coming. I stood there for a moment longer than was strictly necessary. She had good posture, the kind that did not come from trying, just the natural uprightness of someone comfortable in their own body. The late afternoon light was doing something to her hair that I noticed, and then chose not to think about further. She was wearing a plain white shirt and jeans, and her beat-up sneakers, and she looked completely at ease in a way that I, on my own land, rarely managed. I cleared my throat. She looked up without startling, which I found strange. Most people jumped when I appeared unexpectedly. "Hi," she said, easy as anything. "What are you writing?" She looked down at the notebook. "Letters. To my mom. She is back in East Texas. I write instead of calling because the calls make her worry, and the letters give me time to make things sound better than they are." I did not know what to say to that, so I said nothing. She looked back out at the fields. "This is beautiful land." "Yes," I said. "Yeah, you ever sit out here just to look at it?" "I work it. That is different from looking at it." She turned and considered me with those brown eyes. "Is it?" I put my hat back on and went back to work. But I thought about that question for the rest of the evening, which annoyed me considerably. The second week, something shifted. I did not notice it at first. It happened slowly, the way seasons change in Texas, where one day you look up and realize the quality of the light is different. I started coming to the kitchen before I needed to. The coffee was better when it was fresh, and Lila made it fresh every morning around 5:45. If I happened to be there at 5:45, that was not a thing that needed examining. She had started talking a little more by then. That small observations. 14 different birds from the kitchen window, and she only recognized 4. Pete's progress with the ear tag system. She never forced conversation, never pushed when I went quiet. I started looking forward to those mornings. That was the thing I did not want to admit. The 2-week mark came and went without either of us mentioning it. Dale did not bring it up. I did not bring it up. She just kept making biscuits and counting birds and writing letters to her mother. On the Wednesday of the 3rd week, one of the young steers got loose during a routine move from the south pasture. By the time I reached the creek bend on my truck, the steer had slowed at the water's edge, and Lila was standing there. She must have been on one of her afternoon walks. She was completely still, about 20 feet from the steer, not talking to it. Low and even, the way you talk to a nervous animal. The steer had its ears up and its eyes on her, but it was not moving. I stayed in the cab and watched. She talked that steer down for 4 full minutes. Didn't move, just kept her voice steady, spoke to it like it was a reasonable creature that needed a moment to think. Eventually, it turned and ambled back toward the fence line on its own, and she turned and saw me sitting in my truck and shrugged one shoulder. "I grew up around cattle," she said when I got out. Clearly. My dad had a small place. I wanted to ask about her father. I did not. You should not approach loose cattle without backup. Worked out fine. Could have gone differently. She looked at me with a small, even expression. Most things could go differently. That does not mean you do nothing. I put that in the same category as her question about working the land versus looking at it. I drove her back to the house in the truck. The sky was doing its golden hour thing, the whole world going amber and copper, and I had the windows down and the dust was coming up behind us. "Do you miss it?" I asked. "Your father's place." A pause. "Every day," she said. "We lost it when he got sick. Medical bills. That is partly why I came out here. Fresh start. Somewhere different from the place where everything went wrong." I did not say I was sorry because I have never known how to say it properly. What I said was, "It gets easier. The distance helps." She looked at me. "I wondered if you knew what that felt like." "My father," I said. She nodded and did not push it further. I was grateful for that. When we got back to the house, she went inside. I sat on the porch and watched the sun finish going down and thought about how I could not remember the last time I had talked to someone about my father without it being a business conversation or a condolence. I reckon that was the moment something broke open. though I would not have admitted it for another week at least. On the Saturday of the 4th week, the thing happened that apparently became a subject of quiet conversation among every person on the property. I had come out of the barn after a tense morning. An older mare had been struggling, 3 hours with the vet. It had ended well, but left me tired and short-tempered. I was walking toward the house when I heard laughter near the equipment shed. I rounded the corner and found Lila, Pete, and 2 other hands gathered around the water trough. Pete was soaked from the waist up. The pump had malfunctioned and sent a solid jet of water directly at his chest, and from the look of things, it had happened 30 seconds ago. Pete stood there, dripping, arms wide, profound indignation on his face, while Lila and the others tried, and failed, to compose themselves. Then Lila looked up and saw me watching. She pointed at me, not meanly, just with this look on her face like, "See, even the boss caught the end of this." And then she started laughing again. And I grinned. I felt it happen. My face did something it had not done in a long time. Not a polite smile, not the tight expression I used when something needed managing, but an actual undignified grin that came from somewhere below my usual defenses and arrived before I could intercept it. Pete stopped looking indignant and started looking alarmed. Curtis, one of the older hands, visibly stopped walking and stared. Lila saw it. Her hand dropped slowly, and she looked at me with quiet delight, like she had found something she was not expecting. "That pump needs looking at," I said, and I turned around and walked back toward the house. I was still grinning when I got inside. I stood in my kitchen and poured a glass of water and thought, with something between alarm and wonder. When was the last time that happened? I could not remember. That evening, I came out to the porch, and she was there. She had taken to sitting in the second chair sometimes in the evenings, the one that had been unused for years, I with her notebook and a glass of sweet tea. I had stopped minding. Somewhere in the 3rd week, I had stopped minding entirely. I sat down. Neither of us spoke for a while. The sky was doing its thing. "You have a good grin," she said finally, not looking up from her notebook. "Do not push it," I said. She smiled and kept writing. I drank my coffee and watched the fields and felt something I had not felt on this porch in longer than I could measure. Something that was not quite contentment, because it was too warm for that word. Something closer to the feeling of being exactly where you were supposed to be. I did not know what to do with that, so I sat with it. Subscribe to the channel if you are still here with me. Leave a comment and tell me, have you ever had someone make you smile when you absolutely did not plan to? I will leave a heart on every single comment. The following week, something happened that forced my hand. Lila had gotten a phone call. Her mother's landlord, as it turned out, with news about a potential housing problem that needed addressing. She had taken the call sitting on the back steps, and I had not meant to overhear. But the window was open, and the morning was quiet. And I heard enough to understand that she was managing something difficult with her mother's living situation from 1,500 miles away, keeping her voice even and her words careful and reassuring, promising things she was not entirely sure she could promise. When the call ended, she sat on the steps for a while. I stayed inside and gave her the time. By the time she came into the kitchen, she had assembled herself completely. Braid neat, composure intact. She started making coffee like nothing had happened. "Is your mother all right?" I asked, because it was a direct question, and I had learned by then that she responded to direct better than indirect. "She will be," she said. "I just need to figure some things out." I went out and found Dale. "She has been here a month," I said. "Yes, sir. She is good with the crew. She learns fast. She is reliable. All true. I want to offer her a permanent position, household management, proper salary. I paused. And I want to look into whether there is anything we can do about her mother's situation. Dale, I do not want her thinking she needs to leave because of something we could help solve. Dale looked at me for a moment with an expression I could not fully read. Yes, sir, he said. Do not make it a thing, I said. I wouldn't dream of it, he said, and walked away. And I was fairly certain he was smiling. I found Lila that afternoon near the paddock fence, her usual spot, her usual posture, the notebook open on her knee. The light was coming in at that late-day angle that turned the grass gold and made the whole place look like something on a postcard. I leaned on the fence beside her. I want to offer you a permanent position, I said. Household management. You are good at it, and you know this place now, and the crew knows you. She looked up slowly. Wade? It comes with a proper salary and the guest quarters as long as you need them. I kept my eyes on the fields. Your mother's situation, if it is a money problem, I would like to help with that, as an advance against wages. We can work out the terms. Silence. I am not offering charity, I said before she could. I am offering a job because I need someone who can do it, and you can do it. That is not why you are doing this, she said quietly. I was quiet for a moment. No, I admitted, but it is true anyway. She set her pen down in the notebook. She looked out at the fields the same way I was looking at them. The horses were moving slowly in the far paddock. The cattle were settling for the evening, and the sky was doing that impossible thing where it looked like God had taken a paintbrush to it. I like it here, she said finally. I know. I like the mornings. A pause. I like the porch. You can stay on the porch, I said. She laughed, a real one. I soft and surprised. And I felt that same thing in my chest that had been happening with increasing frequency. That grin wanting to come back. Yes, she said. I will stay. I nodded and pushed off the fence and started back toward the house. I had made it about 10 steps when she called after me. Wade. I stopped. Thank you. I turned around. She was looking at me from the fence rail with those steady brown eyes and that composure that had stopped feeling annoying somewhere around the second week and started feeling like something I could not imagine this place without. Do not mention it, I said. But I was grinning again by the time I got back to the porch, and I did not try to stop it this time. The days that followed were the quietest kind of good. But she settled into the ranch the way the light settled into the fields in September, like it had always belonged there, and you had just not been paying attention. Her mother's situation was resolved within 2 weeks. Dale handled the arrangements. Lila did not thank me more than once, which I appreciated. She took to the permanent role with the same quiet competence she had brought to the temporary one. The household accounts, the crew, the kitchen. She still hummed every morning. I still came in before I needed to. The difference was that now she would look up from her notebook when I came in, say something completely unpredictable about a bird she had seen or something Pete had broken, and I would sit down and respond, and we would talk. Not about important things mostly. Small things, the kind that add up without you noticing. One evening in late October, a cold front moved through, and we ended up in the living room after dinner. Fireplace going, her with her notebook, me with a book I was not really reading. Can I ask you something? She said. You're going to anyway, I said. She smiled. Why did you stop? Smiling, I mean. I considered not answering. 2 months ago, I would have changed the subject. I got tired, I said, of managing everything alone, of people needing things constantly, and not having anyone who was just there, who did not want anything.
What are you thinking about?
I looked at the fire. I forgot it was supposed to be more than just work.
Just how lucky
She was quiet a moment. "You just needed someone to remind you," she said. I looked at her then. The angle of her jaw, the loose braid, the worn sneakers by the door, these 2 months of mornings and fence rails and ordinary moments that had added up to something I had no word for. She had been here 2 months and had become the thing I thought about first in the morning and last at night, and I was done pretending I did not know that. "Lila," I said. She looked up. "I am not good at this. I am difficult, and I work too much, and I spent 7 years convincing myself I did not need anyone." I held her eyes. "But I need you to know I am glad you were standing in my road. I am glad the truck broke down. I am glad you pointed at me." Her mouth curved slowly into that smile I had been cataloging for 2 months. "You are glad I pointed at you." "You made me grin," I said. "First time in years. I reckon you should know that." "I know," she said quietly. "Why, I saw." I reached across and took her hand the way a man does when he has run out of other ways to say what he means. She turned her hand over and held mine back. The fire crackled. The cold front moved through the Texas sky, total and unhurried. And somewhere in the distance, a horse shifted in the stable, and the iron gate was lit at the end of the drive, and everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. That was it, really. That was the whole of it. I had spent 7 years building walls and calling it protection, convincing myself that closed off was the same as self-sufficient, that cold was strength instead of what it actually was, loneliness dressed up in good leather boots. And then, one Tuesday, in late September, a woman with brown eyes and a canvas backpack stood in my road and refused to look nervous. Yes, and she hummed in my kitchen and sat on my fence rail and talked my cattle down at the creek. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, she reached through every wall I had built and found whatever was left of the man underneath. She was still there the following spring, and the summer after. I asked her on the porch in the evening, the golden hour light doing its thing over 1,500 acres that had been Callaway land for 3 generations. Simple ring. Nothing that would get in the way of work, because she was practical, and I had learned to pay attention to that. She said yes before I finished the question. I grinned. Obviously. She pointed at me. The exact same gesture as that first Saturday by the water trough. And I pulled her in and held her the way you hold the thing you were not smart enough to know you needed. Completely. And with no intention of letting go. I have never been more grateful for a broken-down truck and a 3-mile walk, and a woman who stood in the middle of my road and refused to move. She ruined me in the best possible way. I would not change a single Tuesday of it. The Callaway Ranch is the same as it always was. The iron gate, the black pickups, the cattle, the golden hour light. But it is not the same at all, really. It is warmer now. There is humming in the kitchen. There are 2 chairs on the porch, and both of them are used. That is all I ever needed. I just did not know it yet. If you made it to the end of this one, none thank you, from the bottom of this old cowboy's heart. Subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, and tell me what you thought. What moment got you? I will leave a heart on every single one. This is Wade Calloway. Signing off from the ranch. Take care of yourselves out there.